The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali consist of about 200 aphorisms, and they're presented in 4 sections, or 4 chapters, or 4 books. The first one's called the Samadhi Pad, the second one is the Sadhana Pad, the third one is the Vibhuti Pad, and the fourth one is the Kaivalya Pad. What's the significance of these 4 sections? What is the significance of these 4 headings, these 4 titles? These 4 titles actually sum up the dynamic of spiritual practice or enlightenment practice. So let's explore each of these titles. The first one is concerning Samadhi. Now, Samadhi has many shades of meaning or understanding. It's mentioned within the Yoga Sutras as the 8th of the 8-limbed path of Ashtanga Yoga. But here it's presented at the beginning of the Yoga Sutras. Samadhi is usually understood in the context of concentration exercises. There are traditional concentration techniques whereby you focus on an object, and by focusing on an object you enter into a state of absorption, and this is Samadhi. Spiritually speaking though, Samadhi is when the object that's being focused on is the actual attention. In concentration exercises, you steady the attention by focus on an object. But in true Samadhi, it is that attention which is the object of attention. This is pointed out in the 3rd aphorism of Book 3. This is actually the goal. This is the goal of yoga. In spiritual practice we begin with the goal. That's why Patanjali has it as the first book. This is the beginning point, this is the starting point of yoga. It is realization. It's realization of the ground of our being, of our essence. Some people like to believe that once you've realized this, then that's that. You're enlightened. End of story. It's the beginning of the story, which is why Patanjali has it first. What happens after that realization? The mind kicks in. The mind detracts us from it. This is when yoga practice, spiritual practice begins. And this is what the second book addresses, Sadhana. Sadhana is understanding all the ploys by which our own psychology detracts us from realization. Detracts us from realization of the nature of our own essential awareness. It's what prevents us from being absorbed in that realization. This is Sadhana, this is the second book. So first we have realization of the nature of our own awareness, and then we work on establishing ourselves in that realization. The usual romantic notions of yoga assume that if we follow certain practices, then we get realized. You don't get realized. As was pointed out in the previous video, realization does not happen through practices. Realization is simply that. You realize something. There's an enlightenment. A switch is switched on. You don't have to go through a period of training to put the switch on. the switch flicks on. Enlightenment happens. That's when the true work begins of becoming established in that enlightenment. The third book is the Vibhuti Pada. And this is the one that a lot of people are interested in because it's about yogic powers. We all like to know about superpowers, possibility of superpowers or siddhis. Well, if you think you're going to be able to develop siddhis by studying Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, well, good luck to you. In fact, if you think you're going to develop siddhis by any practice of yoga, good luck to you. And when you succeed, how about putting a video on YouTube and letting us all see the benefits of it? It's quite remarkable that in this age of global communication, we haven't got any convincing videos of siddhis in action. No, this is not about powers. Vibhuti means manifestation. What's manifestation? This is manifestation. All of this. This is the arena of our spiritual practice. Vibhuti is the arena of our spiritual practice. Now, if you're still caught up with the idea of powers or of power, then this is what empowers us. This is what empowers us. This is what empowers our realization. Everything that comes up, everything that presents itself to us is a challenge. It's a challenge to either be hypnotized by it, be lost in it, or to use it as a vehicle to enhance realization of the nature of our own awareness, of our essential awareness. And so a dynamic is set up. A dynamic is set up between awareness and what needs to be done to remain established on that awareness, not to achieve awareness. You're either aware or you're not. The problem is remaining aware within this manifestation of everything that's going on. It's the manifestation of consciousness. We get caught up in it, we get lost in it, we get hypnotized by it. But it is consciousness. This is all dependent on consciousness. If there was no consciousness, if there was no awareness, there wouldn't be anything. We can hypothesize that there might be something, but that's only a hypothesis, which is again a product of awareness. And the fourth book is the Kaivalya Pad. And this is when we start naturally gravitating towards awareness rather than having to struggle to remember it. It's usually translated as alone. And this is the essential nature of consciousness. There is only this one consciousness. It's not my consciousness, it's not your consciousness or anybody else's or God's consciousness. It's simply consciousness. It's just the same way we talk about space. We don't talk about this space here and that space there. It's all space. It's the same with consciousness, awareness. We might describe this point in space as different from that point in space. We can describe this point of awareness as different from that point of awareness. But it's simply awareness or consciousness. If that doesn't make sense to you, then this is the sort of thing which becomes evident when you practice yoga, when you're engaged in enlightenment practice. And this reinforces Samadhi. So it's a cycle, it's a dynamic. We have Samadhi reinforced by Sadhana in the context of Vibhuti, promoting Kaivalya, realizing the soul nature of consciousness, which promotes Samadhi. This is spiritual practice. This is yoga.